Hello everybody, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting all 10 games of Game Week 7 of the Premier League. And there are some huge games in the Premier League, such as Brighton Hove Albion versus Tottenham Hotspur, and also Aston Villa versus Manchester United. And well, Manchester United, they are looking absolutely awful. But anyways, also be giving my goal of Game Week 6, and I will also show you how I did in Game Week 6 in terms of predicting to see if I can actually beat my best ever week of 11 points. We start with the 12:30 PM kickoff. It's at Selhurst Park. It's Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, and Liverpool, it wasn't exactly a pretty performance against Wolves, only just about getting it over the line from a Salah penalty. You know what, Liverpool? I think you've got this one in the bag. Crystal Palace, they've just lost to Everton, which really was a must win. In the first half, there was some fluent football by Crystal Palace, but in the second half, it all went to flop. You still played well in that game, but you're not getting the results, and Liverpool are a better side. So I'm going to go with the better side in my opinion, which is Liverpool. I'm going 3-1 to the away side Liverpool as they face Crystal Palace. On to the 3 PM kickoffs is at the Emirates Stadium. It's the Gunners versus Southampton. Is there any point of fully analysing this game, or is it the most obvious game you could ever think? Sorry, Southampton. I'm going to have to go with home advantage, the home team. To be fair, Arsenal, you did concede 2 goals against Leicester, and it was scary, but overall, they got it over the line, and they are a better side. They're better than Southampton. They did not play well against Bournemouth. They did not play well whatsoever. Poor performance against Bournemouth. Arsenal walk in the park. 3-0 to Arsenal come the final whistle. As we move over to the G-Tech Community Stadium, it's Brentford versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. And Brentford, you know what? They don't look too bad. Sitting in 12th, they're facing 20th Wolves. They should be winning this, really. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as they think. Because Wolves, yes, they have been battered this season by Chelsea. But other than that, they've kept it quite tight. And a lot of their games against Liverpool was only a penalty in terms of the difference in that game. And they were quite close, and they put some good chances against them. And against Newcastle, it was 50-50. They took the lead, and in the first half against Aston Villa, they were the better side than Aston Villa in the first half. They went to absolute shambles in the second. Wolves, your side has decreased over the transfer market, and it's showing by you being in last. But I don't think they deserve to only have 1 point. They probably deserve to have maybe 2 or 3 more points than they do. And in terms of the games that Wolves have actually played, they've played some very hard teams, Because this is probably Wolves' easiest game so far, I feel like they can get something. So because of that, I'm going to go for Wolves. But Wolves have conceded 16 goals. So I am going to give Brentford 2 goals, especially when Brian Mbeumo is scoring very early on, back-to-back. But I'm going to give Brentford 2. But Wolves, I'm going to finally give you your first win. It's going to have to come against a Brentford side, which is much easier than the fixtures you've already had. So I'm going to have to say 3-2 in a high-scoring game towards Wolverhampton Wanderers come the final whistle. As we move over to the Etihad Stadium, it's Manchester City versus Fulham. And well, you know what? I was tempted to go for a 0-0 draw. It's only happened twice in this Premier League season, but it could happen again. Fulham obviously did get a clean sheet against Nottingham Forest. Fulham put up a good shift against Nottingham Forest, although it could have easily been a 0-0 draw in that game. But Manchester City in the last 3 games in all competitions, they have drew all of them, which means they have not won in the last 3 games in all competitions. They drew to Newcastle, which, can I say, Fulham battered Newcastle. So if Newcastle can draw, surely Fulham can. But it doesn't quite work like that. Yes, Rodri is injured throughout the entirety of the season because of an ACL injury. So that's another positive for Fulham, and they've been looking really good. They're on great form. This is probably one of the hardest games to predict, in my opinion, this week, because Fulham look really good, and Rodri not being there is huge. But Man City, they're at home. Yes, Newcastle did really well to silence Erling Haaland, but it's not going to be silenced again. They're at home. They're going to have to think of another way to play without Rodri, which I'm sure they've got the quality to do, and I'm going for only just about a 1-0 win towards Manchester City. We move over to the London Stadium. It's West Ham United versus Ipswich Town. And well, can I say, Ipswich Town, congratulations. That was a great second half performance. Liam Delap, 3 goals scored now. Not just his goal scoring, he does other stuff off the ball. Some great movement, some great hold up, great to keep the ball in attacking areas. And Ipswich look really, really good. And going against West Ham, Lopetegui has not had the greatest of starts, and I think he could be sacked. And in terms of his layout and his structure defensively, I think hasn't been very well. His tactics hasn't properly gelled with West Ham. They've just lost in the Carabao Cup 5-1 after losing 3-0 against Chelsea. They did get a point against Brentford, so that's all right. But they're facing Ipswich, which I think are hungry for a win. You know, especially before the international break, they're going to be wanting to get a win. And you know what, Ipswich? You look fantastic. To get a 2-2 draw against Aston Villa is amazing. And to get more shots than them, utilise that possession of the amount of corners you did. And they had so many opportunities. Leif Davis had a fantastic game. So many balls he made, and there could have been even more goals for Ipswich. Ipswich, they look fantastic. They're 100% staying up, and they're winning this game. Sorry, West Ham, you have not looked good enough in my opinion. So I'm going for a common scoreline, 2-1 to Ipswich Town as they face West Ham United at the London Stadium. We move over to the King Power Stadium. It's Leicester City versus AFC Bournemouth, and Leicester City, they were so close of getting a point. It wasn't till near the end that Arsenal topped it off with a couple of goals. Leicester, they do look alright. They haven't had an amazing start, and they're home against Bournemouth, which won at 3-1 against Southampton, which was very good because they completely battered Southampton, completely. But in my opinion, Leicester are a much better side than Southampton. And Hermansen, we're going to have to talk about him. Yes, they conceded 4 goals, but it could have been 8 if it wasn't for Hermansen. I mean, Arsenal had 36 shots, and Hermansen really did well. He did really well. The amount of saves he made was fantastic. But overall, if they can take all the positives out of that Arsenal game, the fact that they managed to score 2 goals, the fact that Hermansen made great saves, and put it against a Bournemouth side which has that high intensity, high press, and a great manager in Iriola pushing at them, I think Leicester, considering they got a point against Spurs, proving it, like they can score a couple of goals against Arsenal, which is a top quality side, especially at the King Power, I think they can get a point here. Bournemouth, you're not going to lose this game. I'm going down the middle for a 1-1 draw come the final whistle at the King Power Stadium. And we move to the 5:30 PM kickoff. Is at Goodison Park. It's Everton versus Newcastle United. And get in, because you know what? All games that Newcastle played, it's been 50-50. Other than the Fulham game, which they thoroughly deserved, and it looked like they'll definitely win it, it's been quite 50-50. Which means it could have went either way in all the games. And against Man City, the first, 30 or so minutes, we looked like we could get a goal, and we looked overall structurally really well, silencing Haaland, but then they scored, and the fact that they scored first, and we managed to hold on and score again against Manchester City, that is fantastic. That is a really promising performance. And we look really, really good. Yes, Everton got their first win, but it wasn't exactly an amazing performance by Everton. I would say it's not their best performance this season, despite getting their first win, because Crystal Palace probably deserved to get at least something in that game. So considering Everton didn't exactly play fantastic in the last game, I feel like we can get a win. Especially the fact that we got a point against Man City, and we're so much higher up in the table, and we got a better side. I think I'm going to go for a Newcastle win. Come on, Newcastle United. I'm going for a common scoreline, 2-1 to the Toon. Come on, Newcastle. As we move over to Villa Park, it's Aston Villa versus Manchester United. And Aston Villa, only a 2-2 draw against Ipswich. Yeah, there has been some concerns defensively in terms of their structure for Aston Villa. So I feel like, despite Man United conceding 0 goals, I feel like they can nick a goal here, Man United. But Aston Villa, they're playing Bayern Munich, which is a huge game later today, because I'm recording this on the 1st of October. Aston Villa, they don't have to travel away. Unlike Man United, they have to travel away to Portugal, and they've got less time to recover. So Aston Villa, they're going to be able to recover quicker. And Man United, they don't have Bruno Fernandes. They're probably not going to have Kaibi Mainu. And they played absolutely terrible. Man United, what's going on? You managed to do well against Southampton, do well against Barnsley, but those are much lower class teams to Tottenham. They got absolutely battered. Terrible performance in the first 59 minutes. Terrible performance overall. Aston Villa, they look better. They've got more time to recover from the European games. They're at home advantage, and I think it's going to be another battering. But Aston Villa will score loads of goals. The likes of Duran on the bench, how clinical he is. with the likes of Ollie Watkins and Rodgers. They're going to score goals. It's going to be 4-1 to Aston Villa as Man United look terrible against Tottenham. We move over to Stamford Bridge. It's Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, it finally ends. They lost it against Fulham. To be fair, Fulham were on some extraordinary form. Some superb form. So obviously it was going to be a hard game. But it was at the City ground. And they're facing Chelsea, which they look amazing. Cole Palmer, 4 goals. I mean, when he's on the ball, it's just effortless. It's like, yep, easy pass. Yep, just tiki-taka around him. Easy goal. He's just sensational. And it's not just him. They've got Jadon Sancho, which did fantastic. Got himself an assist. He's performing well. They've got Madueke. I mean, it's fantastic. Obviously, there are a few defensive issues, so I feel like Nottingham Forest can capitalise on the defending issues. I feel like they will score Nottingham Forest because of that. But Chelsea, they're scoring loads of goals, so why not score again, especially at home? Sorry, Nottingham Forest. I feel like the continuity of the Fulham loss will continue in this game, and Chelsea will get a 3-1 win at Stamford Bridge facing Nottingham Forest. Now we're moving on to a huge game at the Amex Stadium. It's Brighton Hove Albion versus Tottenham Hotspur, and I feel like I just want to play it safe here, because I really don't know who's going to win this. Tottenham, you play fantastic. Obviously, I prefer Ange Postecoglou's football to Fabian Hurtela's football, but we can all admit that there's going to be goals. I said there'll be 6 goals in the Chelsea-Brighton game, and there was 6 goals. I said it'll be a draw, but it was a win to Chelsea. But still, I said there'll be goals, and there's going to be goals again. There's definitely going to be goals in this one, especially with Tottenham being very open at the back. I feel like if I would go for a winner, I would go for Tottenham because I feel like the fluent football and the great style of football from Ange is fantastic. But they are in European football, so they're going to be a bit tired. And I feel like Brighton, they can't go another game with a loss. They haven't won in the last 4. And I feel like their drawing form is going to continue. They're going to get another draw. I'm going to play it safe. I feel like both teams are quite high quality, but because Tottenham, they're going to be a bit tired, I don't think they're going to win it, so I'm going to go down the middle. Both sides are going to score goals, going to be more goals again. I'm going for a 4-goal thriller, cannot split the sides, playing it safe, going for a 2-all Desmond draw between Brighton and Tottenham. And with my goal of Game Week 6, there's quite a bit. I like McNeil's goal. That was a fluent goal to the top left. Cole Palmer's free kick was fantastic. Justin, I mean, that was a great technique, a great goal in off the post. But my goal of the week will be Bryan Mbeumo's goal. I mean, he did it again in the first minute. It's because Brentford broken the record. The last 3 Premier League games, they have scored in the first 40 seconds. And it was also a great finish by Mbeumo. But how did I do in Game Week 6? Well, it was my worst week ever. I'm going to cry. It was my worst week ever. Only 6 points, as you can see there. So it wasn't a terrible week, but it was my worst week. Let's push that out of the way like usual. But you guys have been flooding the comments on how I say Arsenal and Fulham. So if you're flooding the comments there, why don't you flood the comments of this next video that I'm about to show you behind the screen? Toodle pip!